Hi everyone, my name is Wizir, and I'm the local member of parliament for Mississauga Malton, so welcome. I want to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the Haudenosaunee, the ancestral lands of the Huron-Wendat, and home to many diverse Indigenous peoples, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Thank you so much for being here today. We have heard from many families impacted by the devastating earthquake in northern Syria and Turkey. Even today, significant work remains in that region to clear the wreckage, and many Canadian families were impacted with the loss of loved ones, and all Canadians who saw the devastation had their thoughts and prayers go out to those in that region. From as soon as the news came out, Canada has stood ready to act and support those impacted by this natural disaster. Canada has committed up to $50 million in humanitarian assistance support to the people of Syria and Turkey. That has included an immediate commitment of $10 million the day after the first earthquake to provide life-saving support like emergency medical services, food, and other essential items for those impacted. Canada has also matched donations to each of the Canadian Red Cross and the Humanitarian Coalition to deliver services on the ground. In direct response to an appeal from the United Nations for assistance, Canada provided an additional $20 million in ongoing support. Canada continues to partner with groups like the United Nations Refugee Agency and the International Organization on Migration to deliver support and assistance to refugees and displaced persons in the region. Finally, Canada has been mobilizing a cross-government coordinated response since day one. An interdepartmental task force was established to ensure our teams are coordinated and collaborating to deliver effective support. Canada has been and remains committed to helping all those impacted in the region. And that is why we're here today, to announce additional support to those who continue to be impacted by the devastating earthquake. I'm very happy to invite my colleague, Sean Fraser, Minister of Transport, Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, to discuss what measures his department has already taken and what new measures are being implemented to provide added support. Minister Sean Fraser.
طبعا يا جماعة ترجمة سريعة. الآن عم يحكوا عن الدعم اللي تقدم، الدعم المادي، والآن راح يحكوا عن الدعم اللي بده يصير لتعجيل المعاملات.
It's wonderful every time we can spend a little bit of time together, and thank you so much for hosting today's event. I also want to acknowledge my colleague, the Honourable Omar Al Gabra, our Minister of Transport, as well as guests representing the Syria-Canadian Foundation. Marwa, thank you so much for being here, and the Federation of Canadian Turkish Associations. Seema, thank you so much for joining us for today's important announcement. Let me start by just addressing the challenging situation that we've seen on the ground. When we saw images of the earthquakes that took place in Turkey and Syria, the world watched with horror. There are no words that can adequately express the terror that we witnessed. To see families impacted, buildings turned into rubble, and for days afterward, to see the stories of heroes digging through the rubble to save their loved ones, to identify people that they've never met in hopes they could save lives in the days that followed the earthquakes was something that will stick with me for a very long time. To see the response of communities across Canada, not just Turkish and Syrian communities, but people from across the country to raise money to support people who've been impacted was incredibly inspiring. Though I come from a small town in Nova Scotia where we may not have the largest Turkish population, I met a young international student who started a fundraising campaign because she wanted to help and garnered a lot of attention from her fellow students at a university campus nearby that were raising thousands of dollars to help contribute to the effort. Of course, in recent years, even in rural Nova Scotia, we've seen an increasing number of Syrian refugees who've landed in our communities, who've educated many of us who have been in Canada from different parts of the world for many generations on the need to continue to be good humanitarians and to contribute to the response to help protect vulnerable people around the world. I want those of you who represent or come from Syrian and Turkish communities in Canada to know that we're going to continue to do what we can to be supportive because it's the right thing to do. I'm happy to share today some of the next measures that we'll be introducing to help continue to support people who are impacted by the earthquake, and importantly, their families who are here in Canada. We have implemented new measures that are going to make it easier for people who've been impacted by the earthquakes to come to Canada. In particular, we are going to priority process applications for temporary residency for people who have been impacted, specifically including family members of people who are in Canada today. We're using new technologies within our system to ensure that more of these people will be approved to come to Canada, despite the fact that there are ordinarily barriers that prevent people from around the world from coming here successfully. In addition to making it easier for people to come and be reunited with their families in Canada, we're also introducing new measures for people who are already in Canada that will make it easier for them to stay. In particular, we're going to allow people who are here in Canada to apply for extensions, cost-free, to remain in this country. We're also going to create an opportunity for people who are here temporarily to apply for open work permits that could allow them to stay for up to 3 years. We're also making it easier for people to move between temporary streams. So if you're here temporarily as a visitor, a student, or a worker, you can more easily transition to one of the other temporary streams that make it easier to remain in Canada. For permanent residency applicants who are already in our system, we're going to waive the requirement that you have passports or travel documents, recognizing that many people lost access to the documents that they had as a result of the tragedy that unfolded during the earthquake. And for citizens and permanent residents of Canada who are in the region that's been affected, we'll also be waiving fees for passports and travel documents going forward. And of course, for applications that are already in the system, we're going to continue to prioritize the applications that are within IRCC to ensure people who have an application in the system will be treated on a priority basis and have their applications expedited. Just before I finish, c'est essentiel de continuer de soutenir les personnes qui ont un impact avec les tragédies.
أنا راح أدخل إلى الداخل عشان أترجم شوي. في كتير إجراءات راح تصير عشان تسرع المعاملات. الآن بالنسبة لموضوع اللي تحدث عنه بعض النقاط اللي هلا بتذكرها سريعا، إنه راح يصير في تعجيل لملفات اللي هي الفيزيت فيزا اللي هي temporary resident بسموها فيزيت فيزا، على أساس إنه يجوا الناس يجتمعوا لم شمل مع أهاليهم، خصوصا إحنا بنحكي الناس المتضررة اللي موجودة الآن في الإقليم المتضرر اللي هم من السوريين من الأتراك. أضف إلى أنه كمان عملوا شغلة ثانية اللي هي موضوع الإكستنشن. إذا حدا موجود الآن بفيزيت فيزا بكندا، أعطوهم فرصة أنه يمددوا يعملوا إكستنشن على هذا الستي تبعتهم التمبرري ستي، على أساس أنهم شو اسمه يضلهم موجودين بكندا، يضلهم في سيف هيفن، يعني بمكان آمن لهم. بالإضافة إلى أنه أعطوهم أنه مجال أنه يحولوا هاي الفيزيت فيزا أو مثلا إذا كان عندهم تصاريح دراسة على سبيل المثال، إنه يحولوها أو ياخذوا extension عليها، إنه يضلوا قاعدين up to 3 years يقيموا هون ويحصلوا على open work permit، يصير عنده تصريح عمل يضلوا يشتغل موجود هون بكندا. بالإضافة أيضاً إلى موضوع اللي هو زي ما حكى أيضاً عن موضوع لم الشمل، حكى أيضاً عن تصريح الفيزا والدراسة، وزي ما حكينا برضو بالفيديو الماضي على موضوع الفاست تراك، إنه يحطوا هاي الملفات تتعالج في البداية. ولكن حسب ما أنا فهمت هاي هي تعتبر هو يعني مش إنه برنامج هجرة، وإنما حيكون في لها معاملة خاصة تسريع لهاي البرامج تبعت الهجرة، برامج الهجرة سواء كانت اللي هي temporary قلنا أو البيرمننت. يعني إنه إذا أنت جاي مهاجر دائم، أو إذا أنت جاي إنه بس زيارة سريعة، زيارة طالب، دراسة، visit فيزا، هاي تعتبر يسموها temporary residence، فراح يسهلوها وراح يحطوها على بداية الملف. أضف إلى أنه هذا لا يلغي الأسسمنت اللي راح تعملها، التقييمات اللي لازم تعملها وزارة الهجرة ما راح تلغيها، راح تضلها موجودة. يعني في عندك مثلا على سبيل المثال بيصير في عندك تقييم اللي هو بيسموه الإليجيبيليتي، الاستحقاق، إنه هل أنت بتستحق إنك تحصل على هاي الإقامة أو الفيزا إنك تيجي على كندا. السكيورتي والكريمناليتي، البحث الأمني على الأشخاص ما راح ينحذف. وفي كمان اللي هو التأمين الصحي، عفوا اللي هو البحث الصحي، إنه بتعمل فحص طبي يعني. فهدول إنه ما راح يلغوهم، إنه لازم تضلها موجودة، ولكن راح يصير في تسريع كتير. وفي بعض اللي حيكون التساهل، أتوقع في شغلة واحدة اللي هي تعرف بالإليجيبيليتي، بس بموضوع السكيورتي والكريمناليتي والميديكال أتوقع أنه يمكن تضلها أمور مطلوبة، يمكن يلغوها. خلينا نشوف يعني بالضبط شرح التفصيل لاحقا. وهلأ طبعا المؤتمر أنا راح أحاول أني أقطع، بعمل بعدين فيديو لاحقا أعقب على هذا البث المباشر وعلى المؤتمر الصحفي، بس نسمع بعض الأسئلة اللي راح تسألها الميديا. بس حبيت أني أشاركها معاكم الآن، وبدي أرجع مرة ثانية على البريس كونفرنس وبنحكي لاحقا يا أصدقاء. السلام عليكم.